hurricane. But while they in the midst of a storm, the men was up and down, rocking and reeling just like a drunk man. But Paul began to remind them of the dream and the vision that he had. Began to let them know, I heard from God. And God said we can make it through the storm. And let them know that when we get towards shore, when they drop anchor, the ship gonna break up. There's some of you not strong enough to swim. But those that can swim, swim the shore. The rest of you grab a piece of the ship. Even though you're making it on broken pieces, you still don't make it ashore. And I found out that some of us got some broken ships. And our people are hanging on to the pieces, trying to get to shore. But if you hang on in there, God got a delivery date. You ought to tell somebody with your name on it. But when they got to shore, come to find out that they ended up on an island called Melita. And on this island, there were some people that was called barbarians. And no, they was not cannibalistic people. But they were called barbarians because of the language barrier. In other words, they did not speak Hellenistic Greek. And if you did not speak Hellenistic Greek, you were simply called a barbarian. But Paul may have not spoken the same language, but they had the same heart. And they began to build a fire. And Paul was not the kind of person that watched everybody else build the fire. But Paul was building his own fire. And that's something you need to learn to do in church today. You can't wait on everybody else to start your praise. But you ought to tell somebody, build your own fire. You ought to learn how to give God a hallelujah if nobody gonna give him one. Something I found out by praise, that you don't have to have an audience to give God some praise. You can praise him back in your flow. And sometimes you just think of God's goodness. That song Clean was singing, let the healing begin. You can just think about how you need a healing in your spirit. Hands might go up. You can praise him washing them dishes. Towel may go up. You can even praise him driving an old car. Have to pull over to the side and just tell God how good he's really been to you. You ought to tell somebody been real kind to me. But something about praise, we oftentimes use it as an excitement tool, just to try to stir up a crowd. But praise will change your atmosphere. I know what I'm talking about. But while Paul was building his fire, putting sticks on the fire, the Bible said a viper came out of the heat of the fire and fastened on Paul's hand. And Paul shook him off and shook him in the fire. And the people started looking at him and said, surely his time is limited. Surely he won't make it through it. But tell somebody he shook it off. And when he shook it off, he shook the effects off. And we know today that we got some snakes. We got snakes even in the church. You got snakes at Sunday school, teaching stuff that the Bible don't teach. You got snakes going to the prison ministry, going there looking for a husband. You got snakes, but tell somebody when the snake bites, shake it off in the fire. It's not enough to come to church and make church out of a gigantic club. Church is not a club. I know when I came into the board of bishops, I heard somebody say, you're in the chain gang. I said, I was in the game when I was in the streets.